Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, happy Monday. I hope you guys had a phenomenal weekend and I hope your week is off to an amazing start and I hope it's as good as you. It's Monday, September 8th, 2025. You know what time it is. It's Monday evening quarterback time. It's time for another episode of the Daily Blitz's first official podcast. My name is Christian Simpson, and I am the creator. I'm the founder. I'm the NFL and college football analyst, the blogger, and radio contributor. Radio contributor, excuse me. And I started a company called the Daily Blitz, which was revealed to you on September 6th, 2010. So we are officially 15 years old and still going. I want to thank everyone who sent their congratulatory messages over the weekend celebrating 15 years. If you've been listening and tuning in from the get go since Monday Evening Quarterback started in 2021, thank you as always. And if this is your first time tuning in and you were referred to me, one, I'm thanking the person who refers you to me, and two, thank you for taking the referral, and I hope you enjoy. So here's how the show's gonna go. I'm gonna talk about what caught my eye in college football this past Saturday. We're gonna look at the new updated AP poll. We're gonna go to the phone lines. I am gonna talk about quite a few things in week one. It was an interesting game in Philadelphia on Thursday night between the Cowboys and the Eagles, and there was an incident, and I can't wait to give my take on that. I think a lot of you know what I'm talking about. There was a game in Brazil, and then just the majority of everything that happened yesterday. I'm gonna answer questions, do a little preview of Monday Night Football, which is the Minnesota Vikings and the Chicago Bears. They will wrap up week one tonight in the NFL, and then week two begins on Thursday in Green Bay. Washington Commanders, Green Bay Packers. I mean, football is in the air. I'm so excited for it. This show is being recorded on YouTube, Twitch, Spotify, and the Nerdport Network. With that being said, let's just dive right in. College football, week two. I referred to week two as bounce back Saturday for quite a few teams. I look at just all the big name teams that lost in week one. Texas, and they were ranked number one. Alabama, they got absolutely destroyed by Florida State. Notre Dame losing to Miami. Clemson, number four Clemson losing to then number nine LSU. So anyone can be beat on any given Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, and that's just a proven fact. One thing I can say is week two wasn't necessarily eye popping per se, but there was still some action to talk about. I know one of the games I previewed was the Cyhawk Trophy. Iowa State. I remember when I previewed this matchup in 2021. Iowa was ranked number 10 and Iowa State was ranked number 9, and Iowa State put a quarterback on the field named Brock Purdy. I think you guys have heard of him. Turned out to be okay in the National Football League. Looking at the matchup that took place on Saturday, it's contrasting styles of football. Iowa, the thing that I like about the Iowa Hawkeyes and Kirk Ferentz is they stay within their box. So what I mean by that is they're not built to win a shootout. They're not. Their bread and butter is a strong offensive line and running the football. Xavier Williams was my key for Iowa, and my biggest question coming into the game was when Iowa State crowded the box with the quarterback, with Mark Gronowski, be able to make a throw when it mattered most. And as far as Iowa State, they can beat you in a variety of ways. They can slow the game down. They can run the ball, or they can push the ball up and down the field. And Rocco Beck really had a good time watching him last week. Completed 19 of his 20 pass attempts, which is 95% of a completion percentage, which is phenomenal. Wanted to see what he would do against a tougher Iowa defense. And whenever these two play, it's always a defensive struggle. Like it really is. Yeah. I look at watching this game. It was physical. It was hard hitting. It was my style of football. Look, a shootout is cool, but you can never go wrong with the grinded out games. I guess that's just the defensive background in me. Mark Gronowski wasn't necessarily the greatest, and neither was Rocco Beck, if we're being real. But Mark was 13 to 24, 83 yards passing, no touchdowns, one interception. As a team, Iowa ran the ball 39 times for 131 yards. Iowa State, Rocco Beck, don't want to say he came back down to reality, but 18 to 27, 134 yards passing. He averaged 5 yards a throw and one touchdown. And Abu Sama the third was the leading rusher with 47 yards. And as a team, the Cyclones ran the ball 30 times for 104 yards. Iowa did win this game by a score of 16 to 13. Iowa's 3-0. Don't really hear about them in the Big 12 because why? I don't know. But I think they can compete for the Big 12 conference title. Kind of a dark horse playoff team, if I'm being real. But yeah, this is an entertaining game, I'd say. Both Ohio State and Penn State got shutout wins. LSU gets a win against Louisiana Tech. Georgia won their scrimmage against Austin Peay, and they have a big game coming up this weekend. That's where game day will be, in Knoxville, Georgia, Tennessee. Know a lot of people feel game day should be somewhere else, but excuse me. Excuse me again. But when they have an opportunity to showcase the SEC, that's what they'll do. Yeah. Miami handling business against Bethune-Cookman. And Carson Beck. You remember what I said, not just on the site last week, but on this show. If they get good Carson Beck, good things are going to happen. And he was 22 or 24, 267 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Mark Fletcher Jr. had himself quite the game as well. not quite the game, but 11 carries, 86 yards, and he ran a couple touchdowns in himself. No, Miami looks good so far. But let's see how they do in conference play. That will tell me more that I need to know about the Miami Hurricanes. Arch Manning and Texas broke up. Arch Manning and Texas, they bounced back. Sorry about that. Arch was 19 to 30, 294 yards and 4 touchdown passes. And Livingstone, what a game he had. Parker Livingstone. He caught 4 passes for 128 yards and 2 touchdowns. Texas bounced back. I'll tell you, one thing that disappointed me was the Clemson Tigers. I really wanted to see how they were going to come out after losing that week 1 game to LSU. But Troy gave them all they could handle. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, I didn't like the way Clemson looked. Yes, they did win that game by 11 points, but they didn't really earn it. Um, to me, they just struggled to get off the field, to move the ball offensively, and Cade Klubnik was okay. He wasn't anything spectacular. 18 to 24. Excuse me. 196 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. And Adam Randall, a converted wide receiver, turned into a running back. 21 carries, 112 yards rushing. Average 5.3 yards per carry and 1 touchdown. Yeah, Clemson let Troy hang around this game a little too much. This should have been a game where Clemson got right, and they didn't. And moving forward, I'm kind of concerned about Clemson. Um, South Carolina handled business against South Carolina State. And how about Illinois? They're now cracking the top 10 in the AP poll. Getting a 26-point win over the Duke Blue Devils. Yeah, Illinois plays hard under Brett Bielema. And then we had a couple of upsets. There was one, Arizona State going down at the hands of Mississippi State. But how about South Florida and Florida? Now, Florida, they were my sleeper team in the SEC, and I thought roster wise, this is the best team that Billy Napier has had on paper. I think I say this every year, and I didn't think I'd have to say it this quickly, but now do you see what happens when you look ahead? Florida has a big game against LSU, and I can guarantee you, if Florida had won that game day would be going to Baton Rouge right now. But the Gators dropped the ball. They let South Florida hang around, and South Florida is actually a pretty tough football team. They're very well coached. Byron Brown, starting quarterback, he went 23 of 36, 263 yards. DJ Lagway didn't have a bad game, and 23 of 33, 222 yards, and 1 touchdown. Florida just took South Florida a little too lightly. And Florida won the game 18 to 16. There were chants of fire Billy after the game. Yeah, fans were chanting fire Billy because they're fed up. I mean, Florida, dare I say it, they haven't really been that big of a threat since the Tebow days. And I mean, Tim ain't walking through that door anytime soon, and neither is Urban Meyer. He don't need to walk through that door. Yeah, I was definitely looking forward to Florida and LSU in Death Valley this upcoming Saturday night under the lights. But the Gators didn't handle their business, and this has been a problem with them. They've been too inconsistent. But give South Florida a lot of credit, and they actually have a huge game coming up, one that I will be previewing with the Miami Hurricanes. So a little Florida battle on the horizon. Can't wait to get my hands on that. Looking back at just everyone who bounced back, Alabama bounced back. How about Florida State putting up 77 on East Texas A&M, and that's all I'm gonna leave it at. Another game I previewed this one on Saturday. Michigan Wolverines, Oklahoma Sooners. That's where game day was. This was their first time meeting in almost 50 years. The last time they met was in January of 1976. So believe it or not, this is only Michigan and Oklahoma's second time meeting. I was looking forward to seeing this quarterback matchup. John Mateer for Oklahoma and Bryce Underwood, the star phenom from Michigan. And I'm going to start with Oklahoma because I was so impressed with them on Saturday night. Playing their game, getting after Bryce, blitzing, and Brett Venables, who you guys know I was high on when he was at Clemson as their defensive coordinator. Excuse me. Always had Clemson as one of the three best defenses in the nation. He finally getting a head coaching job. Their offense really struggled last year, so he really had to dive into the transfer portal. Ends up getting a quarterback in John Mateer from Wazoo, from Washington State, and he wasn't bad on Saturday night. 21 of 34, 270 yards and 1 touchdown. But John was also the leading rusher for the Sooners. 19 carries, 74 yards. And one thing I remember hearing during the broadcast, Kirk Herbstreit said it best. If Oklahoma wants to be taken seriously, they have to get a running game to complement John. And I agree with him. Bryce Underwood, 9 of 24, 142 yards. No touchdowns, no interceptions. Justice Haynes was your leading rusher, 19 carries, 125 yards, and a touchdown. Excuse me again. I'm a little tired, y'all. And a touchdown. I want to say this. And this happened to be the trend with teams who were starting new quarterbacks. You're going to have to open a playbook up eventually. Because the game plan for Michigan on Saturday night was absolutely horrendous. Lots of screen passes, lots of dink and dumps. Nah, open a playbook. Let the quarterback take a shot down the field so you see what you're capable of working with. And they were almost too conservative. You can be conservative, but you don't want to be too conservative that it stunts your young quarterback's growth. And I think Bryce will bounce back from this, but this is a big win for Oklahoma. They won this one by 11, 24-13. Next week, I'll also be previewing Georgia and Tennessee. Can't wait to get my hands on that. First time previewing Georgia this year. The game is in Knoxville, so I'm looking forward to seeing what type of atmosphere that's going to be. And I'm trying to think. What else caught my eye in college football? Baylor and SMU was an absolute shootout. 48-45. What a game that was. Texas A&M handled their business, 44-22, and Ole Miss went into Lexington and got a win, 30-23, and that was actually my upset pick. If you guys listen to me on College Football Showdown, and Alabama bounced back nicely and won that game against UL Monroe, 73-0. I think everyone's writing Alabama off, and I mean, come on, let's face it. They are a completely different team. They did lose the greatest college football coach of all time to retirement in Nick Saban. I just need to see more discipline from Alabama, and if they get that, they're going to be a tough out. Alabama, not saying they'll win a national title anytime soon. They're not the threats that they once were all those years ago under Saban, but I think Kalen DeBoer will right the ship. There's just a couple of things he needs to tighten the screws on, and I think else will fall into place. Yeah. But with that being said, that's all I have for college football today. We're gonna go to the phone lines. You're gonna hear some music, and then when I get back, we're gonna talk a little National Football League. What caught my eye in week one. This is Monday Evening Quarterback on Spotify, YouTube, Twitch, and the Nerdport Network. I'll be right back.